Okay, the inspirational lunch hour. And we do have some serious inspiration coming up. I am fully confident about the two gentlemen backstage. I want to be just as confident about the incredible audience we have here. So, because it's lunch break, because we've had hours of programming, I want you to do this for just a moment. Take your laptop, your pieces of papers and everything else, and just put it under the table, under your chair for a moment. Just for a moment, I promise. It'll only be 2 minutes. You will survive not being connected to technology for 2 minutes. Okay. Now, I want you all to do this with me because this is going to be fully interactive. They've got questions to ask you. They've got polls. We have microphones. You do not want to miss this opportunity, so I want to be fully alert, fully excited about this. So, can we, just for a moment, can we put on lights in the house and just put some music? And I want to do a quick lunch stretch with all of you, okay? I'm not going to make you do dance moves, just a stretch. So we're ready for this. Okay, so if we can put some house lights, we can put some music. Oh, we got some congos. Okay, so everyone do this really quickly, okay? I want you to take your hands out, put it wide. But don't touch the person next to you. Don't touch the person next to you. Do not touch the person next to you. Great. Now I want you to put it high. Good. Now do me a favor, everyone stand up. Stand up, everyone stand up. I want you to pretend like you're climbing a ladder. So come on, climb. Go high, go as high as you can. Climb, stretch it out. Well done, everyone, well done. Come on, good. Now, go all the way to the right. Give it a good stretch. All the way to the right. Feel that back crack. Yes. Go all the way to the left. Well done. Excellent. Stretch it out. Now, if you can, touch your toes. Who can touch their toes? Let's see. Come on. Who can touch their toes? I can't. I'm wearing equipment on me. Touch your toes. Excellent. Now, do me a favor. Look at the person next to you and say, "It's nice to have you here." Turn around. Look at the person next to you. "It's nice to have you here." Say, "It's nice to have you here." Great. My outfit's coming off. Have a seat. Sit down. I think you guys are ready. I think you guys are ready for this. Okay, so do me a favor. Oh, yes, give yourselves a hand. Come on. Yeah. Woo. I'm really excited by these two gentlemen. The man who's going to be standing right next to me is on the managing board of Siemens. He's a CEO of Siemens Digital Industries. He's half French, half German, a bike enthusiast and an advocate for inclusivity. He's working on some really interesting projects he cannot wait to share with you. The other gentleman who will be standing on this side over here is a sustainability entrepreneur and investor. He's an e-mobility enthusiast. A lesser-known fact, he likes to play backgammon. He also loves Simon Sinek and the whole Start With Why concept. Of course, he's best known as being the 2016 Formula One World Champion. Please give a warm IAA Mobility 2021 welcome to Nico Rosberg and Cedrik Neike. Come on. Yeah. Woo! Stretch it out. All right, gentlemen. You ready?
Yes.
We are ready. Dan Ram, we are ready for you.
Dan Glam, I would
Dan
call
Glam. Dan Glam.
You name Dan Glam. All right, hold these. We're going to play a quick game over here. I'm going to give you a couple words, and I want you to choose if you think it is underrated, needing more attention, or overrated.
Okay.
Okay?
But we have to go, Cedric, we have to go at the same time.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
no cheating, huh?
No cheating. I'll be
No
very,
cheating.
very careful.
First of all, Berlin. Okay. Monaco.
Oh, come on.
Of course.
Pizza.
um,
Okay. Bubble wrap. Okay. I can never get enough of the bubble wrap. Just press
Absolutely.
Cats. Please say overrated. I'm a dog person all the way. E-cars. All right.
yeah, good.
better
good,
put
good. I
on
was scared.
Hydrogen.
Two of those,
Two of those.
right? Cedric?
Absolutely.
Two of them.
Absolutely. Green hydrogen, but green hydrogen.
Green hydrogen. Flying cars.
No, that is
no,
bad.
No, absolutely. I believe it.
Last few. Afternoon nap.
Oh.
Okay. Finding the cool side of a pillow. Do you know when you go to a hotel and you've got it's all stuffy and you find the cool side of a pillow?
Dan Glam, are you serious?
Yeah, I mean, This is supposed to be an
I think we
inspiration.
skip that one.
Last one, knowing multiple languages.
Oh.
All right, excellent. You can put those down. So, with that, let's get into the meat of today's conversation. Inspirational Lunch Break with Nico Rosberg and Cedrik. We have a couple conversations here, what you would expect and also what you not expect, because you both are familiar with IAA. We know what it was, and this looks different. Besides the fact we're in Munich, we have a wider concept of mobility. So hit us hard with why is this topic important?
Perhaps I start, and can I just, I'll pick something, and I need your activity and actually from you both to try to explain to you why I think it's important. So the first one is pretty easy. Can you all take your hand, left hand, right? Your left hand.
That was
sorry,
your right hand.
Left
Cedrik,
hand,
huh?
right.
That was your right hand.
But left hand, and say, are we doing, if you're saying, are we doing enough, and all of you actually raise your hand, are we doing enough to save this world, to leave this world a better place than we have it before? If you think we're doing enough, you could go like this. If you think we're doing too much, if you think we're doing too little. So please, do you think we're doing too little to actually look after this earth in the right way? Where do you put your hand? All right. So now take your second hand and say, how much should we be doing?
The young generation is putting the hand on the floor.
Absolutely. So this is the gap. So all of us know this gap. But there's a second gap. And we were talking about it just backstage preparing for this. And the problem we have is we're 7.6 billion people on this earth. And all of us here in this room are privileged. All of us just sitting here are privileged. Right? So there's billions of people living in poverty. So how many people do you think actually, and take your two hands, are actually having the same standard of living as we do? Very few or a lot. I need this also from all of you to actually describe that. Right? Get your arms up. How much do you think this one? How much would deserve to live the same way we do? So much. So that's the gap we have. We should be doing so much. There's so many more people. And I need to try to explain it that there's 7.6 billion people. We will be 10 billion people. Everyone in this room uses 20 times more resources than somebody in Jakarta. But somebody in Jakarta or somebody in Mumbai wants the same standard of living, and we need to find a solution to do this. And mobility is key, because there's two things when you come out of poverty you're looking after. One is housing, one is mobility. So that's why I'm here, and that's why actually you are also here, because we need to find a way to make sure that we're not using up this world 5 times to be able to do this. So that's my inspiration.
I see you want to jump, so I'm going to let you go.
You're ready
for it.
to
Go on.
No, but I am here because the mobility as we know it from the last 10 years is causing big problems.
Yes.
And we have the opportunity now, and it's a fascinating opportunity to disrupt mobility for the better. You know, it's amazing what's happening. And the only thing is, I'm walking around here and we're seeing just electric, but we still have 1.2 billion petrol cars on the roads globally. So we also need to think about that in a big way, because especially emerging markets, I mean, that's a big problem. And until electric mobility is going to penetrate there, it's going to be decades. You know, but I know Siemens, you like to say it's not my department, it's Siemens Energy, but they are also looking into synthetic fuel solutions.
So while it is inspirational to desire for all the world to be privileged, is it realistic?
And I think that it's realistic that technology can help us solve some of those problems, and we have to. The reality is we need to use our ingenuity to be able to close that gap. Because what we cannot say is to say, look, we protect our privileged way of life, and everybody else we don't care. But we can also not use the same resources. So we need to take exactly the ideas, as Nico was saying, is how do we move to e-fuels, right? Renewable energy. I just give you an idea. There's this crazy Japanese professor. I went into one stage and he basically said, I'm the reason why 90% less electricity is being used in this region. He invented the blue LED. We use 2% less electricity worldwide because the LED was invented. We have to do the same for mobility. As Nico was saying, 1/3 of the worldwide resources are used for mobility. For getting people from A to B, from getting things to A to B. So we need to think, and back to your question, we need to think how are we actually going to do it? And I'm a big believer that technology is one of the main elements which we need to approach and use for that.
Okay, but Cedrik, give us the solution.
All right.
I mean, if you don't know, who does?
Okay, so I'll give you a couple of solutions of what Siemens, for example, is doing.
Just one. The best one.
There's not a single solution. So the big thing
Sorry,
is there's not a single solution
Doing well.
for all the problems in the world. They tend to be small ones. So the first one I'm going to give you is, what are we doing as Siemens? So most of you still believe we're doing washing machines, toasters, etc. We don't. What we do is that we actually help mobility to be more efficient. So who came with a car this morning to the IAA? Can you raise your hands, right?
Can I say I proudly came with an EQV?
Very good. And probably this car was designed with Siemens software. So we help this car to be better. So before it's even being envisaged, we say, how do we build this car? How do we make it affordable enough so not only Nico or me can afford it, but everybody else? So that's the first thing we do. We need to find a way to use data to make things more efficient. Bikes, cars, planes, trains, and make them electrical capable. And this is what Siemens helps to do. The second thing is we need to produce these things also much, much more efficiently. The problem, the first battery would be costing tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands for you to do it. So we need to find production processes so batteries or e-fuels can be produced at a cost. Everybody can use it. Developing countries, etc. So we use a lot of technology. Every third machine in the world has a Siemens controller to make things better. So we do more with less. So we use data to think of better ideas, and then we use capabilities to make them cheaper and affordable for everyone. These are two things. They're not sort of killer elements, but I think they're very important to get there.
I do want to talk about some of the challenges with that, but Nico, you've got an impressive portfolio of some serious gambles and some good investments. Can you maybe share one that you are proud of that you think is a sustainable, inclusive concept that would, not keep that gap so narrow?
Not keep the gap so narrow. That's going to take a bit of time, unfortunately. But I would mention Tier. Tier is a company we're very proud of here out of Germany, which has taken on the big guns out of America, who are trying to conquer Europe.
Yeah.
The Bird, for example, and is now number one in Europe. Fighting Bird off, and that's been an incredible success story. And the key to success has been in operational efficiency and bringing those costs down for operations. And one of the last steps, for example, has been to do to put the operations into the hands of the customers, of the clients, for example, with swappable batteries and incentives, so into emerging markets and bring benefits to further away places in future, certainly.
Both of you are involved very hands-on in designing the future mobility, whether it's at Siemens, whether it's with your companies. I know you're more than just talking heads on stages, that you actually understand what is going on and you're guiding it. So if you had to come up with a formula, like the essential ingredients when discussing with portfolio companies, when discussing with your team, who should be at the table? What pieces do you need to bring so that we actually have a great future?
Well, first of all, before the discussion here, you said, we shouldn't be speaking about profit anymore. And I'm against that, because yes, profit is fundamentally important, because that's how we're wired as humans, and that's what keeps us going. The only thing is we need to balance it out with being much more purpose-driven, so in German, wertebasiertes Wirtschaften. And that is what I look for when I'm looking at startups, that the founders have both in mind, are really purpose-driven for the greater good, not only for their employees, for the people that are going to be our clients, but also, of course, having a great roadmap for future profits.
So purpose, profit, both together.
And both can work together. That's where we're heading at the moment, and that's awesome.
All right.
And what I think is that we need to address the people which have the ideas. We need to address the people which actually make the things, and we need to address the people which use the things. Let me explain. The idea, when you have an idea, we need to give every designer the chance to start building a car, and at the beginning already thinking, which components am I using? Is it going to be recyclable? What is the life cycle of this thing? So we need to build digital tools to do this. The second thing, we need to make sure that we produce it in a way that everybody can use it without using too much resources. And third one, and this was something interesting, we needed to make sure that the user enjoys it. If you force somebody to do something, they will not enjoy it. You enjoyed the ride with your car, I hope, this morning, because it was beautifully designed, well built, and you go forward. And every time you're going to drive it, everybody else will learn about it. So I think the people we need to bring on stage or together are idea people, maker people, and users in every part of the society.
I was this morning at another startup here in Munich, which I'm not affiliated with, but I visited them, and I want to mention it's Sono Motors, who are really pioneering the solar cells on cars. And they're at a point now where their solar cells will charge 112 kilometers of distance per week. And an average person in a city only does 110 kilometers. So it's really quite a fascinating vision, and they're now, they're getting towards their production very, very soon. So it's also quite a cool company right out of next to Munich here. They've raised 100 million.
Impressive. Now, look, I like inspiration that's positive, but I also think inspiration sometimes is where we need to be going. Maybe some of the areas that we're not paying attention to or areas that are not getting enough attention. I enjoyed the little bit of grilling that was going on back and forth because backstage, because while there are some things that Siemens is doing really well, there's still room for improvement. There are still, when you're talking about that whole ecosystem play, there are gaps in the system. So can we talk a little bit about that? What are some of the challenges when it comes to future mobility? What are things that we need to be discussing, that we need to be showcasing on stages like this, that we need more innovation?
Do you want me to start? I mean, we discussed that one of them is the supply chain. We need to, if we build batteries, where's the cobalt coming from? Is it coming from mines which we don't want it to come from? How much water are we using to actually build batteries? It's a very energy and water intensive process. Are we actually doing the right thing? So we need to look at the complete value chain, not only at the element which we have. And this is another type of technology which is important. We're using actually the capability to track this. It's like a digitales Typenschild. So you would have the capability that every car which you buy, you would know exactly how much CO2 was produced for the pieces, if they were produced in the right ways, and what actually is the footprint you have for that. And I think that's an important part to look at the complete supply chain and what we need to do. We are building something up which is based on Bitcoin technology called Sustainium. It's the capability to really have a distributed ledger which has that capability. So I think the supply chain, knowing where things come from and where they're going to be used after, is something which is underrated, as you always say. Which we need to.
First time I've heard blockchain brought up here. That's good. I like it.
One more thing to add, which I've seen more and more as well, is using the function of social listening to check on your supply chain. So I was speaking to Audi recently, actually. So they're implementing this social listening tool because they have, I mean, more than 5,000 companies in their supply chain. It's impossible to check on all of them. And so now they're encouraging their community and listening to what's happening online about the companies in their supply chain. And so if the neighbor of one of the companies tweets, hey, X and X just polluted the river, Audi will be capturing that. And this is a really powerful way also, in a much simpler way, to also exert a lot of pressure and making sure that the supply chain is working in a very sustainable manner. So that's cool how we're also able to use social media to some benefits in this way.
Absolutely.
I'll give you another part of society. So I fully agree with Nico. The other part of society is we have a lot of our peers which have disabilities. You're blind, you're in a wheelchair. How do we make sure that they're part of the mobility revolution we have? So in Siemens, we're rebuilding a part of Berlin called Siemensstadt. And in this part, we're basically saying it's going to be carbon-free, it's going to be sort of completely sustainable. But we invited people from the surrounding which have disability and said, how would you design a mobility system which would be also for you, so you don't feel excluded? You have visibility issues, you're basically in a wheelchair. How do we make sure that this is happening? And we're trying to invite part of society to make sure that the mobility concept of the future is actually a mobility concept which includes all of the society. So I think that's another part where we need to do more work as Siemens, but also as society.
I think it's unfair that I'm asking all the questions, so let's do this. If you've got a question, raise your hand, and we'd love to bring a mic to you. Please do not be intimidated. We're stretched, we're warmed up.
We don't have the Slido function today.
No Slido.
Super duper.
Decided against Slido. Who has got a question? Raise your hand.
This is not looking very promising.
Okay, here we go.
Thank you for saving.
So let's.
Can we get a round of applause for the people asking the question, whatever the question is?
Yes, let's get a mic as well. So this should be super smooth, but we don't see mic people. So backstage, Denise and Sabrina, if you can get someone to grab a mic. And here's the instruction. Don't go there.
Mike,
We're not supposed to go there. Sorry, it's super awkward, but we cannot hand the mic to you and all of that. So we have a mic on a boom, and the instruction is don't touch the boom, right? Pandemic, COVID.
So what do you think the question is? Should we do this?
Shout it to me. Go on. I'll repeat it.
We talk about the supply chain.
We talk about supply chain.
Right now we are having a lot of external events, macro-environmental events
Yes.
that affect the supply chain. How we can optimize the resources in the future for designing our supply chains to become greener and zero emissions.
Good. That was a good warm-up for the question. I'm going to ask you to say it one more time into that microphone over there. Okay? that was a really good warm-up. Here we go. Don't touch the mic, though.
You didn't trust yourself in repeating that accurately, or what?
I also had another voice in my ear at the same time. Go on.
Yeah.
Oh, now we got to switch it on. Hold on.
I can repeat.
I'll
it.
repeat. Yeah, you
Yeah,
repeat.
yeah.
Go on, go on.
So the question was, and you nod if it's correct, you said, look, it's great you're doing all of this, but how do you make sure that the supply chain gets green, and where are the challenges in the supply chain to get them to really have it green? That's the key question.
You go.
All right. So the main problem we have in supply chain is that you need to be able to track what actually happens, right? You go to a vendor and say, look, how much CO2 have you used? So we have this concept called digital twin. We're building a twin of a car. When we build a car, we're building twins of production. We're now building green digital twin. We're building a twin of the bill of material of a product through its whole life cycle. And what we're doing now, before this was for checking on prices, we're now adding CO2, water, and other elements we can track. So then when a designer starts up and says, I want to use for building my next car this part of material, it will check what's the cost, but also what's the CO2. Then when you go and order it, you can actually see that this person can actually tell you that this is how much CO2 or how much water would be used. So you're starting to include the people across the value chain. Now Europe is doing one activity which is Gaia X, and some people might like it or not, but there's a particularly important part which is called Catena X in the auto industry, which we're making sure that every supplier of this value chain is agreeing on the standards on how to say how much do I use CO2, etc., so that in the design phase to the delivery phase we can track it. But it needs a standard and needs people to play by the rules, and over time to actually also track it. That's the main thing which we need to do to build this green digital twin of a product, because the dream is that not only your car will tell you how much CO2 it has, but in the next ice cream you have, you will see not only does it cost me €1, but it actually consumed so much CO2 to actually get it into your hands.
Okay, but you said we need people to play by the rules.
Yes.
I see some problems with that. How are we going to check?
So he's applying the good German rules. Trust is good, control is better. So how do we get there? The main idea, and this is where the blockchain technology I talked about, is if we have a blockchain which you can actually track at each production step of what happens, and this is a validated blockchain, you can actually prove, you have a fundamental proof, and you can go back and see, is it really true that A, this cobalt came from a mine where no children are working in, or this was used with less water. So the important part is to design it, and then build something you can enforce this across the whole value chain using blockchain. So that cool question.
Sounds pretty awesome.
And we don't know each other, just for everybody. This wasn't a planted question, so well done.
You're a Siemens, he's your employee?
No.
He's your,
I don't know.
He's your assistant?
No.
Just kidding.
So next time I ask for questions, I want to try to commit to two things. One, a microphone that works, and second, that you be quicker to go like, we got a hands up. But while you're thinking about, oh, you got a question?
Yeah,
Is
yes,
it ready?
Yep.
We've got a mic ready. All right, let's come front row, please, as fast as you can. And don't touch the microphone or the boom.
Great. You were talking about doing, like, asked us whether we think we do enough. And there's the question of doing enough and doing the right thing. You went into it a little, but what would be the things you would like tell the audience are the right things to do for us when we go home, besides buying Siemens products, maybe?
The right thing is to spend some time educating yourself and thinking about your approach in this matter. That is the right thing. Then there's not one tailor-made way. You know, everybody needs to think for himself what is best. Some people will be able to do more and afford more. Some people won't be able to afford more. But there's also solutions that don't require spending huge amounts of money. For lunch, I had the Beyond Meat burger. So here you're eating vegan for one time a week or whatever. That will have a big impact. It's actually cheaper as well. So it's really about putting in effort a little bit, and if everybody does it, then we're looking pretty optimistic.
And I have a wish for a startup he should invest in, Nico, next time is, how many of you are using your watch to track on how much steps you do, right? We spend so much time, quite a few, right? I mean, you could raise your hands. We should track also the CO2 footprint we have. So if we would have an app which does the education also, and we can try to understand this, the world will not be changed with one big invention. It will be changed because you will use LED at home instead of something else. If I just do a calculation, if all of you have a D-class fridge, and you would switch next time to an A+ energy efficient, you know, the energy efficient elements on it, that would be roughly, I don't know, we have 200 people here, that would be 300 households which would not use any energy because you did that change. So my take is if we can make it nearly like a game that you want to learn more about it, you want to track your CO2 and you want to do something about it, so the next burger you eat, you decide is it a Beyond Meat or is it a normal meat burger, you can actually do quite a bit of an impact. And that's what we're trying to say is educate yourself and try every step to do a bit better. That's the key thing. For me, for Siemens, for everybody. And also for you.
And also
Glam
for
dam.
me.
Yeah, glam.
I have a catchphrase: start now, start simple. Because I think a lot of the big change in the world actually comes in from starting right today and starting with little things. We'll come back to questions again, but I have to ask Nico. It's known as the fastest laboratory in the world. I also know that what made you famous and what's keeping you in the news are actually, there's been a pivot, there's been a shift, and there's a lot of great innovation that we eventually discover that starts off on the racetracks. Please tell us a little bit about some of the exciting things that you're working on in the world of E.
Yeah, so as you know, I love my electric racing, and there's a new championship, it's called Extreme E, and we raced in Greenland last weekend, in Greenland next to the glacier. And then you think, okay, but how can you do that sustainably? And so we partnered up with AFC Energy. AFC Energy is a leading fuel cell maker. And so they send their technology out there 10 days before we get there. And with solar power, and the name is photogenesis, I'm not 100% sure, something like that, which direct splitting the water out and creating hydrogen. So the solar energy is used to directly split the hydrogen out from the water. The hydrogen is then green, it's stored there, and then by the time we arrive there, the fuel cells from the AFC Energy produce the electricity for the racing cars using this green hydrogen in an extremely remote location of Greenland. And this is us as a championship looking and pioneering for new solutions out there. And so this is also solutions then that we're learning now in motorsports, but hopefully something like that, since it works so well in remote locations, could be so powerful for emerging markets, or Africa or whatever. It would be huge if we can really develop and deploy that at scale. So those are some examples which we can be very proud of.
And I want to do a compliment because, Nico, what I find great about is it's fantastic that you won a Formula One, but taking this and saying, look, I want to continuously push technology because we in industry use a lot of technology which is coming out of Formula One or extreme environments. And I did my mechanical engineering degree actually in London, and most of the engineers actually went to Formula One because that's where they used to go. So a lot of technology which we actually have in Formula One makes its way back, and we need to push it to the extreme to actually then not only make it feasible, but then actually we need to make it very cheap for everybody in the developing country to do. And that's what I really, really sort of admire. And I wasn't paid for that, so that's just coming from the heart.
And by the way, we're also leading the championship. Just thought I'd mention that.
So, one of the things that maybe I need to speak on behalf of the developing world, as someone coming from the developing world, is I actually think in the developed world there's a lot of legacy issues, right? So when you're trying to bring something new, adoption can be very challenging. We were talking backstage about what's been going on with telecom in India, and for me, honestly, coming to Germany from India, telecom is expensive, it is slow, I'm on the train, I can't do any work, I can't do Zoom calls.
Whoa, slowly.
I've got a list here, man. I've been building it up for this moment. So I actually think one of the nice things about the developing world is maybe you can actually leapfrog ahead of certain technologies that are holding back here, because someone one day built an infrastructure and we got to build on it, whereas in the developing world, that's not the case. We're starting the infrastructure. Siemens Global, do you have any case studies of some things that you're doing in some of these parts of the world that maybe are even ahead of what's happening here?
So I'll give you a personal story and then a Siemens story, but very quickly, you're coming from India. India was a country which telecommunication-wise was very expensive, very slow, and then there's one entrepreneur which decided to say, I'm going to make telecommunication 10 times cheaper and 10 times faster. And I, in my former job, built that network. And now India is consuming 3 to 4 times more data than all of the US, which was never thought of. And the reason is because if you wanted to scale it to 1.3 billion people, you needed to think of it in a completely different price range. We have to do the same in mobility. If you go to India, it's one of the most polluted cities in the world, Mumbai, Delhi, etc., which are hyper polluted. And if you look around, there's a lot of tuk-tuks, there's a lot of sort of these small cars, which are all using very inefficiently capability. So we're working with a couple of key players at the moment to electrify them. not only to build the electrifying infrastructure, but also to making sort of the electric cars, the electric small seaters sort of available. So you don't think of an EQS will also be very cool in India, but also for everyone to be able to afford it. That's what we need to do. So we need to find markets which are so big that if you make it, you can actually bring the cost of production down so everybody can afford it and then go in the right direction. And that's one of the things which we're working on at the moment with a couple of the Indian producers of bikes, two-wheelers and three-wheelers. But I'm sure you have a lot of
No, I
examples.
love to hear your billionaire India story on the green hydrogen.
Well,
That would be the
you've seen
second
the announcement. I mean, at the moment, a billionaire, Mukesh Ambani, says, I will bring down the price to a fifth of what is actually the actual cost of hydrogen at the moment. As you know, there's two types of hydrogen. There's the classical hydrogen, which is actually not green at all, and there's green hydrogen, which is being produced out of green renewable sources. And the main secret often is, and that's why profits are not bad, the advantage of profit is that you can start building scaling capabilities so that you can roll it out. And this billionaire, for example, wants to make sure, Mukesh Ambani, that he builds an infrastructure which is so big that actually brings down the prices and makes it affordable for everyone. And we need to work on those elements to actually build at industrial scales, things like batteries, things like green hydrogen, which are really important, and make sure that they're done in the best and most renewable way.
But what is his main use case for the green hydrogen?
The main
In
use
India?
case at the moment, he's basically comes out of oil and gas, and he wants to say, look, I need to go into actually renewable e-fuels because there's all this infrastructure which exists, and I want to use green hydrogen to actually augment the gas, augment the capabilities we have to be able to do the gap. Because we will not throw away 2 billion cars in one go. We need to make them actually as green as possible, and that's one project which you liked, is the Porsche project in Chile, for example, with Siemens Energy, in which we said, look, what do we do with all those cars which already exist? Can we utilize them instead of throwing them away?
Do you know what I'd like to see next time? Since Mukesh Ambani is your friend, the two of you and Mukesh Ambani sitting here and having a chat about that. That would be great. I'd love to see that next
We'll
time.
ask him.
Can we take some questions from the audience? So, hand was ready. I like it. The hand that shot up fastest and highest. So let's go over there.
I think
Do not touch the microphone, please. Great.
Hi, my question is for Nico. As Formula One is moving towards e-fuels, what do you think is the role of battery-powered racing cars? And if that will ever overtake Formula One as the pinnacle for automobile innovation? And you spoke earlier about how innovations in Formula One trickle down to regular use as well. Do you ever see battery-powered racing or e-racing in general ever taking over that spot?
Okay, so the battery density, the energy density in battery is not enough at the moment to be able to keep the performance of the Formula One cars that they have now, and the sport lives and thrives on this amazing performance. So it's not the right time for electrifying Formula One. And anyways, the hybrid solution in Formula One is at the moment probably the most efficient engine there is, especially when it comes to some countries like Germany, where so much energy is still coming from coal power plants. So let's stick with this hybrid power unit. And this year already, 10% is coming from biofuels. The problem is that initially it's going to be from food stock, which ethically is debatable if that's a good thing to do or not, because of course there's some people in the world who are dying of hunger. So the next step then is to create the fuel from waste, and this is going to take some time, but the goal for Formula One is to run on 100% synthetic fuels, which would be, I think, a great position for the sport to be in, exactly for the reason of supporting this drive to find a solution for the 1.2 billion cars that are still going to be out there, that are driven on petrol for the next decades to come. And if Formula One can really play a strong role there, I think that would be a very, very proud thing for all of us and for me as an ex-driver as well.
Great question. Thank you so much.
Can I add to Nico, because cars is one thing. You need to understand that also ships and planes produce a lot of element. And the energy density, this is what you need to look at. Of course, we believe very strongly in batteries, but you need certain applications where energy density is important, and their e-fuels make a lot of sense. So we need to look at, are the planes of the future going to use electrical or actually some types of e-fuels? And we probably need both solutions to be able to go forward.
I think there was a gentleman right behind, and then we'll come to you in the front. So there we go.
Are the business cars from Siemens electric or at least hybrid?
This is very dangerous territory. Are you sure you want to go through with this question?
My next cars will be full electrical. I've already ordered it. I just need to have it delivered. No, but jokes aside, that's a very good. We took the aim as Siemens by 2030 to be carbon neutral. And one of the biggest elements which we have is just to electrify and actually decarbonize our fleet. So we're pushing like crazy to replace our fleet to be first hybrid, but then also fully electrical. Or even we have a lot of different types of elements which we also use, because we have a lot of delivery vans, since we do a lot of building technology. So we're looking at the complete thing. So we made a promise that we will, and that's one of the main areas which we're also looking at. One is our factories. The second one is our actually our car fleet.
How big is this car fleet?
I mean, we have 240,000 employees. You can do the calculations, so that's quite a few cars which we're going to address.
Incredible.
You just did a great test drive with the EQS on YouTube, and I would love to know, like, if you guys were actually also so surprised about the radical design change we see in the car space. I think this is kind of probably the first time where on a car show you see like radical new designs, right? Like typically like an S-Class, probably the lines change a little bit, but here we have like almost like, it feels like it's like almost like a century kind of like jump, right? What's your take on that?
Well, my take on it, first of all, is the EQS design is determined first and foremost by aerodynamic capabilities, because for electric cars it's essential to have a very, very low wind resistance, because as we know, one of the limiting factors still is the range. And so this was really, for the EQS, the most important thing. And in fact, they got to a world record wind resistance, beating all the Teslas that there are at the moment. So they've done a great job with that, and I think it's a below 0.2 of the coefficient of aerodynamic or something like that. Anyways, but it's a world record. And keeping that in mind, the design, you need to get used to it, but I think keeping that in mind, the design is still very nice, and especially the car as a whole, I'm a big fan. I mean, it's a big milestone for us as a German country to have a car with that kind of range, especially because it's 700 kilometers plus. And that's kind of the first time where you don't have to think about the worry of, am I going to get to A and B and back? I think that kind of range really starts to be in a healthy area. So that's why I'm a big fan and proud that we as Germany have been able to produce a car like that now.
Can I add to it? Because 24 of the 25 biggest auto manufacturers are using our technology. But you have to understand that these cars, the electric cars, are designed differently. In the past, you designed the motor first. You built the whole sort of part around it, and then you thought about the user. Electric cars are actually being built first from the user around, then optimize the shell, and then you put the motors in place, which means you will see much more radical designs and actually also much more different designs. So I think it's a new generation of car designs which we will, like everything new, everything which is fashionable, you see it the first time, you're like, it's a bit off, and then you get used to it, you really like it, and you go forward. So I think that's what you're describing is going to come, because the idea of a concept on how you design a car is changing radically.
Let's do one more question over there on the left.
Hello guys, I'm originally from Colombia, and I actually have a question regarding the electrifying the infrastructure. So I guess you have learned a lot in Germany and in Europe in general to how to make this faster, right? And whenever I go back for vacation home, I see how different it is back there. So I'm wondering if you have developed any strategies to make this faster in countries like Colombia and in general, like third world countries. So yeah.
That's a big ticket question. When I travel the world, I always being asked, as being a German company or a worldwide company, about two things. I always get asked about Industry 4.0 and how great Germany does around this. And the second one is the Energiewende, the change of the energy. But here I often get asked, so what did you learn and what were the mistakes you made, right? So we did a couple of mistakes and we're trying to go forward. So we're actually trying to bring this technology across the world with our sister company, if you want, or separate company, Siemens Energy, which looks at how can we produce actually green hydrogen, how can we integrate with wind power these capabilities. We're trying to replicate it. And I always come back, solar energy, most of the patents are actually coming out of Germany. Germany pushed it like crazy. Also the first sort of wind powered in a global scale. So I think Germany has some experience it can share. But as Nico was saying, or Dan was saying, is we need to make sure that it works in Colombia, it works in Chile, that it works across the world, and it's economical in those environments too. So we're trying to put replicable blueprints, but we need to see that the blueprints also work at much different sort of cost points than normally.
An example?
One of the examples is what we did in the wind industry. We Siemens Gamesa, we're one of the two biggest sort of wind players. I grew up in Aurich. Most people don't know, but it's a small place where you had a big wind turbine for when I was small, and it took 20 years before the wind turbines actually got forward. Now everywhere you go, we're putting wind turbines in the sea, in the wind, which are competitive in the pricing they're producing. That's one thing which technology, a lot of it was invented in Germany, it's also part in Denmark, and gets replicated across the world.
Great question. Thank you very much. Okay, so maybe a final question and then a last challenge for you guys, okay? So final question, bold innovation, bold future. We must be seeing some mega shifts when it comes to business models, mindsets and thinking. You take this question wherever you want to go with it, but give me the boldest, biggest change or transformation that you're excited about that you are part of.
The boldest, I would go for carbon capture, because it's absolutely essential to reach our climate goals, but it's like completely, you can't create a business model around it at the moment. Like it's almost impossible to have the hope of making money with it one day at the moment as it stands, you know. So, but there's a couple of fascinating companies out there who are being really, really bold, and there's some bold investors behind who are really playing the long game. And so that's, I find very, very fascinating, incredible space.
All right, thank you, Nico.
I'll give you an answer which is probably not stage ready, but I think the boldest element is that we accept the Paris Accords. I think it's huge for humanity to think that we have to do something, all of us, to be able to change it. I think it's pie in the sky, but I think it's radical, and I don't believe a single technology will solve it. And I don't think a single country or single company, we will need everybody to do our bits, or we're really in trouble.
So talking about everybody doing our bits, I've got a challenge for all of us. We all have a phone. I think in a world where there is sometimes a lot of concern and fear about what is happening today and technology and what it's going to do to us, media is important, communication is important, and these two gentlemen are incredible. They are pioneering a lot of stuff, they're leading a lot of stuff, but we all need everybody's help to get the word out there that together we can and we have to make a difference. So here's the challenge. If they had the world's attention for 15 seconds, what would they say? And how you can help with that is, this might be a good moment to tweet or take a video and share what is going on, both here and throughout the conference. So, no pressure, but take your phones out and choose to take a picture and quote them, or take a video and quote them. But it's not just them, right? This is not like necessarily their own personal commitment, but let's just get a positive word out there about why these kind of conversations that we're having here are necessary and what we can all do. You guys ready? I'm just talking until I get the clue from you that you got your 15 seconds of what you're going to say. All right, so get your phones out. Let's go. Make sure you grab a photo, and let's get the word out. Let's get some inspiration to the world. This is how we're going to get it to the world. Remember, we're hashtag IAA MOBILITY 2021. I think that's what it is. That's where we are. You're going to go first?
Yes.
15 seconds. Go.
No. No, anyway, first of all, I'm not prepared, and secondly, I have no idea what you asked, but I'm going to go anyways. Ready?
Go for it.
15 seconds?
Let's go for it.
Go. So as a sportsman, I learned that alone you cannot achieve anything. I had 1,500 team members who supported me in winning the championship. So it's time now also for this mobility disruption to get together, form partnerships, be open to partnering up. Alone, nothing's going to be possible.
Hey, come on, yes.
That was my attempt.
That was
the best effort.
That's great.
I mean, for me, it's very simple. Mobility is a basic human right. We all experience it through COVID, that when we cannot meet each other, there's a real issue. So we have to make mobility better. And the only way we're going to do it, we have to do more with much less. And technology is one of the solutions to do it. But you have to use this technology in your daily life. You have to ask us as industry to be able to put technology, and we have to ask government. So I fully agree with Nico. All of us have to work together, but the fundamental aim is how do we do more with less, and do we make sure that we close this gap I described to you at the beginning, and we make sure we don't do it only for us in Germany, but Colombia, for all of the world. That's the aim we have, and I think all of us have to help this. And you might have this idea, like this Japanese professor, which one person reduced 2% of worldwide energy consumption. We just need 100 of those, and then we don't use energy in any way, shape, or form. I don't know if it's possible, but thank you.
Yes. Yeah, it's like 15 seconds.
That was
French, you're half
51 seconds.
51 seconds.
Is that fair?
It's not fair. But, ladies and gentlemen, can we give an amazing applause and a thank you to Nico Rosberg, Cedrik Neike. Have a wonderful lunch. We'll see you in an hour here on the stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan the Man.
Thank you. Thank you.